I know 2020 has been a bad year for the entire nation, but it's been particularly problematic for those of us on the Gulf Coast. We've endured a line of tropical storms and hurricanes, Marco, Laura, Sally, and now Beta, and that's made the fishing down here most days impossible in anything smaller than like the Queen Mary. It's just been really windy, really rough, really rainy, just disgusting weather. And that's particularly unfortunate because the fishing, especially here on the Louisiana coast, has gotten really good in recent weeks. Speckled trout have transitioned from those outside areas to the interior marsh, and they're crushing an assortment of baits, but that includes topwater lures. And you know, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, that's really my favorite way to catch them. But there are pitfalls to using hard plastic baits, crankbaits, jerkbaits, topwaters, anything hard plastic, and that you have that metal split ring, that hard metal split ring that attaches the bait to the hook. And the problem with that is split rings allow minimal movement of the bait. So think about this, a fish comes up and hits this bait, maybe it just gets one of the hooks, and the fish starts going bananas, particularly speckled trout. You know they come up trying to throw the lure. Well, if he twists his body, he can basically get about one turn before that hook gets stuck and won't move. And so that fish gains a lot of leverage to throw that hook. It's one of the main reasons why you lose so many fish that you hook on topwater baits. But I'm happy to report there is a solution. A lot of the bass pros have begun to change out their split rings and use braided line in place of those split rings. And they all report, I mean all of them report, that they're losing far fewer fish on hard plastic baits. So since the weather's so crummy right now, I've come into my fishing shed. You remember my fishing shed? Just about 8 months ago, I put this thing together when we bought this house. I took you through that process. And I've come in here today to get out of the weather and change a bunch of my split rings into braid. Now this is a matrix mullet. I've been catching a lot of fish on this bait lately. This is one that still has the split rings. But this is one where I've already changed one of the split rings. This is braid. As you can tell, this fish could turn many times before he finally gets hung up. And that's going to help me to lose fewer fish. So I'm going to show you the process I went through to get this braid in place of my split ring. All right, the first thing you need is about 30-pound braided line. Now this is some Cast King line. I'm not a big fan of it for actually loading up on my reels, but it's perfect to use for something like this. So first you cut a length of it, I don't know, about yay. Say maybe 18 inches. Probably doesn't need to be that long, but I'll make it a little longer than necessary just so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, and use split ring pliers to get your split rings off. Makes a big difference. So much easier with the split ring. Okay, so of course I got my spare treble hook. I've got my length of braided line. What I'm going to do is basically double it on itself like this, making a loop and 2 tags. I'm going to run my loop through the eye on the back of this bait. I'm also going to run it through my hook. Probably need to put my glasses on. In fact, let me do that. Okay, so now I got my loop in, and what I'm going to do is just kind of pinch it about halfway down and double it on itself. Reach my fingers through here and pull that line through to make a loop. Right? As you can see, I got a loop, and then my 2 tag ends over here. What I'm going to do is take my tag ends and carefully place them through that loop, like that. And then what you also need is a drill bit. This is what is this? This is a 9/64. But you want something about this big, maybe an 1/8 inch, maybe a little bit bigger. And I'm going to put that here and tighten down on that loop. Now it's really important here that you get this as tight as you can. So make sure that drill bit's in place, hang on to your hook, and pull against it. That should suffice. And then it's really simple. You take your 2 tag ends, you separate them, and just tie 3 overhand knots. 1, again, pull that as tight as you can without cutting your fingers, because that braid will definitely cut you. 2, pull it tight, and 3. All right, that's about as tight as I can get it. Okay, believe it or not, this is the trickiest part. you've got this drill bit really tight inside of here, and you just got to get it out. Not that big of a deal, but you have to be careful pulling against these hooks. All right, now you do want to use the round side of the drill bit, obviously not the side that you would use to drill with. So there I've got my new split ring, but of course I still have these tag lines hanging off of it. Still got my tag lines. So I'm going to use the scissors on my split ring pliers to cut that into a manageable size. Now if you left it like that, you would run the risk of this braid fraying right here on the edges. So you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take some other pliers, grab the end of that line. I'm going to use some matches to just basically burn the end. That's it. And what that does, of course, it kind of seals the end of that braid to keep it from fraying. Actually, I'll probably go back and shorten those a little bit. They're a little bit long. But as you can see, I got my braid split ring, and that hook can really twist on there multiple times before it gets locked up. Far, far, far better than a metal split ring. Now this is a simple trick, but I promise if you do it on your baits, your hard plastic baits, you will lose fewer fish. I'm really excited to put this to the test, but I can tell you from all the research I've done, it's absolutely gonna work. All right, this was a simple gear video, but hopefully you got something out of it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the Marshman Masson channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And until next time, if we don't see you in the marsh, hopefully I won't be in my shed, we'll see you right here at Marshman Masson.
This episode of Marshman Masson is brought to you by Death Grip Jig Heads, and by Delta Marina, and by Sportsman'sOutfitters.com, and by Cito New Orleans, and by Community Motors, and by Bill Lewis Lures, and by Versamax Corks, and by Plaquemines Parish.